Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? So my name's James Farhat. I'm the CEO of Applications Consulting Training Solutions, and I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, but we do work all over the country. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our journey, and as we get through this, I'm going to talk to you about how to create an offer, okay? Because our journey is about creating offerings. And over the last 5 years, we've created now 17 cloud-based offerings, okay? They help generate our business, and some have had to iterate and change as time has gone on. So when we talked about doing this particular session, I wanted to put together sort of the framework that we follow to create an offer. And so I'm going to take you through that journey in this next 20 minutes and definitely can take questions afterwards. But I want to make sure everybody understands here that the Microsoft ecosystem has put us in a situation where we have all of these vast options. And I'm going to talk to you about those options. So we have to understand ourselves and our clients, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, and that's going to help us frame our offering. And then we're going to get into some how-tos, okay? So we begin with why, and then we're going to actually look at how-to and how we basically commit those motions. And you're going to have to change things, the way that you do business today. So traditionally, we've been in business about 20 years, and I've gone through many different transformations. The transformation in the late 90s and early 2000s was around doing things like Windows Server, and Windows Server 2000, and Exchange, and SQL Server. It was very product-centric features. Now we have to look at things from a business perspective, from a customer perspective, and learn how to solution, okay? And how do we build solutions that drive context to our clients, leveraging the cloud? So what happens is doing this does what I call tactical work reduction. So you can be much more agile, you can experiment, and you can bring more strategic solutions to your clients and a better value chain. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as we go through here. So if you look here, this slide kind of gives you sort of a comprehensive set of services that exist within Microsoft at a higher category. So we look here, we've got Office 365, Dynamics 365, and we can use this technology along with Azure, and we can basically create our offering motions. And the offering motions that I'm going to talk about today are based on things like ISV, professional services and managed services, and now we blend some of those things together. They're blending within our business. I'll give you an example. We built a migration tool 4 or 5 years ago, okay? And it generates lots of services yearly. Now, we don't sell the tool to anybody, okay? It enables services versus a product that we have that we sell into the market that's a software as a service that makes us an ISV. So sometimes we blend our service offerings around being an ISV, a professional service, and a managed service. And we're going to talk about how those contrast. But what we need to understand when we do a self-reflection of ourselves as a company, okay, and we understand what we have as capabilities, that's going to help us sculpt what our offering is into the market. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay? So you have to do an inventory about what type of organization you are. So what's your partner profile? Who are you as a partner? And the way that we do that is I put them into 3 stacks. Industry capabilities. Well, all of you have customers today, right? And they serve in different industries. Well, you have to have a degree of expertise to have those situationally fluent conversations with your customer. Does that make sense? So you would use that. It's already an existing asset that you have in your organization to say, what can I deliver into the marketplace that I have situational fluency for that it's going to be easy for me to go to market to? Does that make sense to everybody? Then you have to think about what technical capabilities do I have, okay? What's easy for me to form things? So we have to do an HR inventory, okay? A skills matrix. And when you meld those 2 things together, then you can drive some of the offerings and services that you might have. And what with AppSource, how many of you here have heard of AppSource? Raise your hand. Okay. So AppSource, for everybody, is an app marketplace landing site, okay, for Microsoft. And it has all kinds of different options. So you have options where you can put half-baked solutions. And what I mean by that, it starts a conversation. So today, we're getting prepared a retail sales forecasting. So we took a bunch of Walmart data, and we built an Azure ML solution that does prediction and predicts what's going to happen over the next couple of days, the next week, the next month, in terms of sales, okay? And our messaging in AppSource is going to be a Power BI interface, right? That the field can go out, our field, along with Microsoft's field, and have a conversation with a retail client to begin a discussion. Does that make sense to everybody? Or I can put a full base product in there that's a software as a service that might be accelerated by Dynamics 365, okay, or Microsoft 365. That then puts us in a situation that I can provision, settle everything from AppSource and be an ISV. And I can also do that with a managed service. And I'm going to actually give you some ideas to take away from here, that profile based on your organization of how you can leverage CSP and MSP to create an offer. And I'm going to give you some ideas to think about, okay? And I'll give you two. You can take them back and see if they fit what you're trying to do in your organization. So framing and offering. It's still back to blocking and tackling. And everybody seems to forget this, and they think this cloud thing is this magical, mysterious world, okay? It's not. It's about the customer and what the customer need is. So these four frameworks, okay, and they're frameworks in themselves, helps us drive what the value realization model is going to be for our offer. So we have to do some value discovery. Value discovery is, okay, what is this going to do for the client? How is it going to drive some value for them, right? Then value validation. This gets into personas. Who's going to be the person that helps me decide to buy this, right? What pain am I going to solve, admitted or latent pain? Everybody here know what admitted and latent pain is? Admitted pain has less value than latent pain, and I'll tell you why. Admitted pain means somebody knows they already have a problem. They know that it needs to be fixed, okay? Latent pain is when then you can introduce the problem to the client, okay? You immediately build two things, the two most valuable things in selling, okay? Trust and cooperation. When you guide somebody and say, I found this problem for you, this is how I can solve it, latent pain is what you want to find. And when you do value validation, you want to find out, is this something that will allow me, admitted pain is easy to solve, okay? Latent pain is not always easy to solve. Make sense? Then we get into what we call our value offering. What is our offer? How are we going to go to market? And what are the advantages? How am I going to differentiate myself from other folks out there? Okay? How am I going to be different than somebody else and do something that somebody else isn't doing? And the beautiful part about this, some people say, well, the cloud, just people are going to be able to click and buy software. No, that's not the case, okay? That is the case for some things, but you have the ability to mold and shape what you want, and if you fail or you make a mistake, guess what? You don't have to go buy new servers and install new software. You can iterate and be agile and change on the fly. Does that make sense? So the POCs we do, when we use Power BI, a lot of times we sell. So I'll tell you a deal that we just did based on an offering, okay? And it was an offering that we have that's around operational analytics. And so when the salesperson goes in, he talks to the client, it's around advanced analytics. We did the POC, which has been successful. It was $160,000 or whatever, okay? But we used Power BI for the story. And it was really simple. They gave us Excel spreadsheets. We put it in Azure SQL. We built this, okay? We have a statement of work in front of the client, okay, for $3.4 million, okay? And it came out of an offering. It came out of something that we already had, a set of dashboards. We had a PDF, and we had a PowerPoint, and we had a message. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that and how we solve these four frameworks. So if we look here, what's important about this, and I always talk about this slide in everything that I do, because at the end of the day, it's not about the product to the customer, it's about the customer to the product, okay? You can sit there and build products all day. They might not ever sell if there's not someone to buy them, okay? But if you know what the customer's latent pain is, you're going to get a higher value. You're going to move up the value chain with what your offering is, and that's going to dictate where your price is to the customer. So when we think about this, we have two options, okay? We have a custom offering and we have a defined offering. Defined offerings are nice because they provide prediction, okay? But that doesn't mean that you can't be a custom offering company with the cloud. You can, okay? But you have to make sure that if you're a custom offering company that you put enough margin in there, okay, to put the pre-sales motion in place, and that you create repeatable IP so the next time you get to the custom offering, then you're at 60% banked, slowly at 70% banked, but you'll never be at 100%, okay? If that makes sense. But what's nice about that is that you can be very flexible with the client. So if you're doing large cloud transformation deals, there's no way to really do that with a defined offering all the way where you're going to be able to predict what resources they're going to need, especially when you're dealing with large enterprise or even in CAM. In small business, you could, okay? You definitely could in some small business. But as you get into larger, more complex scenarios, that's going to fall more into a custom offering, okay? But you can have a hybrid, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. You can have a hybrid where you have a defined offering, okay? But you're going to have a lot of professional services to get it implemented from a custom offering perspective, okay? So they're going to buy a tool set from you, but you're going to have to then form that tool set into what they want. And a lot of those are going to happen with analytics deals, okay? Because analytics deals are based on somebody's data, and data is created by who? By people, right? And by culture. And people and culture at all organizations very different, isn't it? So the information that has to come out and how they consume it is also different. But the metrics, the KPI, the predictions, the intellectual property of how to get there is the same. And that's where your IP is. I'll give you a great example. We have a defined offering, okay, which is called cross-selling, upselling. We have another defined offering, which is called Customer Health Index. They're very simple. How do I cross-sell and upsell products to customers that I haven't sold to based on people I've sold to before, right? Well, Customer Health Index is how do I retain my client, make sure they don't leave, okay? The same way I do that for a software company, okay, is the same way from a design pattern perspective that I do it for a waste management company. Does that make sense? There might be a little bit of difference because the data is going to be different. Dumpster data is different from a transactional perspective than software, right? But the approach, the questions, the way that I solution is the same, okay? And so that intellectual property becomes extremely important. And when I talked about the two pillars that are important in your self-reflection, when I talk about your capabilities from an industry perspective, you really need to understand what a business outcome is. And people confuse business outcome in their offering to goal. A goal is something you're trying to achieve, an outcome is a measurement, okay? And the way to create your offering, and it could be an IT offering, and when I give you two of these offerings, they both satisfy IT departmental business processes. When I get to that goal and I measure that outcome, I use processes to achieve that goal, okay? And what's important is the industries that you work with today, for you to serve them, you do have to understand what they do. You do have to understand their process. And your offering is going to satisfy something to make that process re-engineered in a better way. And that's what digital transformation means. So if we look here, what are some axioms, okay? A lot of times people create a model and they create an offering and they don't do them in the same space. And what I mean by that is that our GTM and offering line of business isn't actually delivered by our sales team. It's actually delivered by our business consulting team, okay? So they own the GTM offerings, and they structure the GTM offerings. And the reason is because they're between sales and pre-sales and our delivery. So there has to be some alignment with how we engage, because we don't want to give a message about our offering that's different than our engagement model and delivery. Does that make sense? So that becomes extremely important, that your sales and delivery is very aligned, and that is if it's an ISV product, if it's a professional service offering, or a managed services offering, they need to be on the same consistent message, and your engagement model for delivery needs to be in line. And I call that two things: setting an expectation, managing an expectation. So when you look at your offering and you create your offering, you say, where the roles and activities to deliver that offering within my business, is there a place I can set an expectation and I can manage that expectation? Very simple stuff, okay? Then it needs to be easy to understand and price. One of the things that we do with our offerings is we try to give people what are the resources required by the customer. And that's just a thoughtful thing to do, okay? So when you're delivering an offering, you want to make sure that your customer knows what they need to expect internally, okay? And that needs to be something that you share with them. And then change management is key. So we've done 61 platform as a service apps in the last 6 years. We've done tons of data platform stuff. And the number one thing that customers say to us is that if we do not put dollars in, and we have a value realization model, our value realization model has a whole section just around change management, okay? And this is even with an ISV product. A lot of people don't realize if you're going to get customers to use a new product that's an ISV product, there has to be some change management. there has to be some training, there has to be some adoption, and there has to be some measurement of it, okay? So you have to think about that in your offering, because you're connecting systems back to what? People. The whole reason we have systems is what? For people to communicate, right? So making sure that you take care of the people problem and that there's a change management path for your offering is very, very important. And then we want to leverage the customer. So one of the things that we've done is we've built 5 products now out of customer deliveries. So we had a customer, a large global manufacturer, that asked us to build something that schedules resources in Azure for demos. They didn't want to pay any CapEx. Now we built a product called Time Cloud that literally you go on your Outlook calendar or you can talk to it with a bot, and it will schedule whatever number of VMs you want, okay, that's been set up by the IT department, and it'll spin them up. It can either delete them, okay, or keep them persistent, and they'll take them back down, okay? Well, we built that for a customer, so we just abstracted it and made it a product. And now it doesn't have just one use case, a sales organization that wants to do demos. We now sell it as a contractor vendor governance, so that companies that have contractors that want to come in can use it to use resources and then delete the image. So if they have testers, things like that. So that's just one example. If we look at these offering motions and channels, we have different ways that we can sell and offer our offering. We have ISV and AppSource. Now understand, all of these can be put into AppSource. So AppSource doesn't mean that I just have an ISV product. AppSource allows me to showcase something that I can do from a services perspective and that I have some IP. And the ISV and AppSource, basically 40 to 60% baked, or you can have something that's fully baked. We also have basically, if you look here, ISV with a service. One of the partners that we did Cloud Ready with is an ISV called Quadratech, and they do a great job in migrations. And they also have a service delivery. So when they do PSD migrations, their offering is the software along with the migration, okay? And that's basically how they've built their business. And then there's managed services. I'm going to give you an offering here to take along with you, okay? And you got to think about tactical work reduction. And what I mean by that, moving the employees to more of a strategic. I'm going to give you an IT workload. And I always give this one out because I think it's a pretty neat one. One of the things that's important in using Azure, Office 365, Dynamics 365 is understanding adjacent capabilities, okay? How can I leverage additional capabilities? If you're an IT service organization and you want to get into managed services and you want to do CSP, a great area to use is a thing called OMS. How many of you have heard of OMS, Operation Management Suite? Okay, a couple of you. So OMS is a bunch of things. It's got 4 pillars. It's got automation and control, security and compliance, insight and analytics, and protection and recovery. There's a particular component called automation and control. And if you wanted to harden boxes on an ongoing basis, it'll automatically do that. And you can automatically update other systems using something like Logic Apps. And I don't want to get too technical here, but you can use adjacent capabilities to automate, instead of an IT auditor having to go check those boxes and then update a spreadsheet or update the system manually, it'll automatically do that. And then you can provide SLAs back with Power BI. And so now you've used 3 different adjacent capabilities, one in Office 365, one in Azure, okay, and can create a managed service, and you don't have to have any CapEx expense. You don't have to go buy servers, right? And you can do that with on-premise systems. So you can create a security practice to make sure that people's boxes are compliant and charge them per machine. There's an offering right there. So what you have to understand is, how can I use the adjacent capabilities of Azure, okay, and Dynamics 365 and Microsoft 365 to go to market with something that has the impression of my industry experience and my technical capabilities? Make sense? Another one. How many of you here are part of a software development or app development shop? Raise your hand. Some of you. I'll give you one right now. Application Insights. How many of you have heard of Application Insights? A couple of you? It's an application performance management system, okay? You could literally say, I'm going to manage this organization, and I'm going to manage your application. The number one thing, if you talk to a software development VP, is that they can't keep up and they can't do their application performance management. So it's something they would outsource. You can bring all that data inside of Application Insights, and then you can become an expert on using Azure ML to provide and drive them predictive analytics around code flow performance, or issues with code not performing as well, or parts of the applications, or memory leaks, or configuration drift issues. And then you can surface it back in Power BI as an SLA. And you can charge them per app, per feature that you're actually instrumenting. And you can also do user activity monitoring. So you could have different different series, and you don't have to install any servers. You can just hit a button, Application Insights is there, and it's your IP and your impression of those adjacent capabilities that you go to market with. Does that make sense? So what's some call to action? Know your partner profile. Know who you are. Do a self-inventory. What are my industry capabilities? What can my people do? What are they capable of? And then technically, what can they do? And you need to inventory that. Leverage customer engagements. There's nothing wrong with selling a customer engagement for the first time and it be the playground for you to create your offering. I do it all the time. So as soon as I build something, I built a sentiment analysis taking car data, and now I sell sentiment analysis and Power BI to people with Azure ML. And it became an offering. Does that make sense? So that's very important. Leverage your customer engagements, okay? And then make sure that your offering is in line with your engagement model. Meaning sales and delivery and how it's communicated allows you to set and manage expectations within your business. Okay? Thank you, everybody. We're right out of time. We've got 35 seconds left. So if you look up here, there's more sessions here for U.S. partners. Mark Furr is going to be coming up and doing a session here in 20 minutes. Okay? And if you have any questions, I'll be around here after. And thank you so much. Take care.